Let's talk about something we've all thought about: dating apps. They promise us this incredible world of connection. But do they actually deliver? Or is it more heartbreak than hope? That's what we're digging into today.
It's this weird question, right? We literally have more potential partners at our fingertips than any other time in human history. So why do so many of us end up feeling more alone than ever?
And that's what we're calling the digital dating paradox. It's this endless sea of faces that somehow just makes us feel more disconnected. And if you felt this, trust me, you are not alone. Let's unpack why this is happening.
So, where do we even begin? Well, it all starts with the foundation of any relationship: trust. And when you look at the data, you see that trust online is, well, it's in crisis. The evidence is pretty staggering.
Just look at this number. According to Pew Research, more than half of all people using dating apps have run into scams or fake profiles. That's not just a small problem. That's a constant threat that forces you to be on guard from the very first swipe.
And then there's ghosting. We've all heard of it, and maybe we've all been through it. A whopping 60% of users have experienced this. You have a great chat, maybe even a great first date, and then just nothing. It's this really uniquely painful kind of rejection.
And if that wasn't bad enough, nearly half of all users, almost 1 in 2, report experiencing some form of harassment. We're talking about aggressive messages, threats, just creating this really hostile environment where you're supposed to be feeling safe and open.
So, when you pull it all together, the picture is pretty stark. Almost half of everyone using these apps runs into a serious problem, whether it's scams or harassment. This isn't just a few bad apples. It's a huge systemic issue for millions of people who are just trying to find someone.
And all of that data, it has a very real, very human cost. The result of all the scams, the ghosting, the harassment, it's something called protective cynicism. Basically, we learn to build walls. We start approaching every new person with suspicion instead of openness, which is the complete opposite of what you need to form a real connection.
This whole crisis of trust leads us right to the next big problem: a full-on burnout epidemic. And you know who it's hitting the hardest? The youngest generation of daters.
Think about this for a second. 63% of Gen Z users say that dating apps are a direct cause of anxiety and fatigue in their lives. I mean, for the most digitally native generation out there, the very tools that are meant to bring them together are actually becoming a major source of stress.
And this is where it gets really contradictory. Gen Z is, without a doubt, the most connected generation in history. And yet, 58% of them say they feel persistently lonely. What researchers are finding is a direct link. The more time you spend on these apps, the more isolated you tend to feel. It's just a devastating feedback loop.
And hey, this isn't just something that's showing up in academic studies. It's become a real cultural movement. Just look up the hashtag dating app burnout. It has over 20 million views. People are sharing their stories, they're deleting their apps, and they're all sending the same very clear message. Something is fundamentally broken here.
Which brings us to the big question, the really important one. Why? Why is this all happening? Is the tech itself just bad? Or is there something much deeper going on with how these platforms are actually built? Well, it seems to boil down to two completely different ways of thinking. Most of the apps we use today are built on what's called an engagement model. Its whole goal is to keep you on the app, to keep you swiping. See, their success is measured by how much time you spend. If you actually find a partner and delete the app, they lose. The alternative is a connection model, one that actually prioritizes things like safety, authenticity, and real conversations.
So here's the absolute key takeaway. The technology to connect people online, it works. It's not broken. What's broken is the business model. The incentives are all set up to keep you single and swiping, not to help you find a lasting connection and get off the app for good.
But, okay, it does not have to be this way. This story isn't over. There's actually a pretty clear path forward, a way to redesign these platforms for, actual human beings.
And before we even jump into the fixes, it's really important to remember that it's not all doom and gloom. Seriously, because despite all these flawed designs, people are still finding love online. Real, genuine connections are happening every single day.
And we've got the data to prove it. 1 in 10 partnered adults in the US actually met their person online. And for people under 30, that number jumps to 1 in 5. So this just shows that the basic idea, it works. The potential here is absolutely incredible when it's done right.
So, how do we actually build better apps? Well, the solutions are surprisingly clear.
and some newer apps are starting to listen. First, you need robust verification to get rid of the fakes and scammers. Second, you need thoughtful pacing. Slow things down to fight that culture of just throwing people away. Third, real responsive moderation to create safe spaces. And finally, better algorithms, ones that reward a good conversation, not just a shallow swipe.
You know, in the end, it really all comes down to this one question. What if the platforms we use to find love were actually designed to value our emotional well-being more than the time we spend staring at a screen? What if they valued our hearts more than our attention? That's the future of dating we should all be pushing for.